In exercise 3-26, we see that we have a lot of patterns that are replicated using the polar array command. The basic premise behind this one is getting it set up, first of all, to do what you need to do, only setting up what you absolutely have to, and then going from there to figure out the rest of the pattern. The overall thing that I want to worry about first is the big circle that everything sits on. So I'm going to draw a circle with a diameter of 160. At the very top of this circle is a circle with a diameter of 20. D-enter, diameter 20. Okay, now I'm not going to do a whole lot of duplication of different things because I want to make sure that what I do is going to be accurate. So in taking a look now at the next phase of this, I'm going to draw the bigger circle that has a radius of 20 over top of this. So in this case it's going to be 20. Now to some extent I'm going to need a second one of these offset at 30 degrees so that I can get that interior arc that's going to go to the next one. So what I'm going to do is draw a line. Now I want to come from 90 degrees off 30, so that's going to be 60 degrees. At that 60 degrees, I'm going to draw another circle with the same radius as the previous one. Then I can use my circle with the tan radius option, select here, here, and a radius of 30. Enter. Okay, now what this is going to do is this is going to allow me to do several different things. I do need this on this side. I don't necessarily need anything on this side, but I am going to have to trim this side. So I'm going to do the same coming the other way. From 90, it's going to be 120 degrees. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this from its center point to right here and use that same tan radius option for the circle to create the radius of 30. Now this is a lot of setup work, but it's going to save me a lot of work in the end. What I can now do is I can see where everything is going to get trimmed. All I want to keep is one complete pattern of this particular object. So what I need to do is trim, and I can start the trim right here. That's trimmed out this coming around to right here is one complete pattern. So once I have that, I can then go ahead to the next phase of this particular object. And what that's going to be is erasing this, and then trimming out the rest of this circle that I do not need. What this right here represents is the pattern that I'm actually going for. So what I can now do is I can now do the array command. And I want to do a polar array. My center point is going to be the center of my big circle. My objects are going to be these objects right here. And I do have 12 items that I want to fill around 360 degrees. So I will go 360. I'm going to preview this, and that looks correct for what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to right click to accept that pattern. Now I have another pattern that's on the inside of this, and this pattern has a radius of 30, but it's an outside radius of 30 as opposed to an inside radius of 30. So we're going to have to do a little bit of layout to get that one to work correctly. So the offsetting that we're going to be using here, the book is kind of lacking on some dimensions, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by offsetting this upper line here 30. So I'm going to go with offset 30, and I'm going to copy that down, and I'm going to copy this down. And I'll give one more for good measure just to make sure I can get an actual good pattern to use for this particular example. So I know that I've got a little bit too much information in here, so I'm going to go ahead and trim out these sections right in here, and I'm going to fill it. Well, before I fill it, there's one key thing that has to be done at this point, and that is this pattern is going to have to be rotated 15 degrees because the pattern from the inside to the pattern to the outside is off slightly. So we can now see that where this hole is, there's a downward slope which matches up with the book. Now I'm going to do a fillet with a radius of 30, and I'm going to fillet these two corners and these two corners. Okay, I now have enough information to get the full pattern, which is going to be this, and then that should flow perfectly back into the rest of this piece. So let me go ahead and erase what I don't need. What I do have is the pattern now, and now I should be able to do an array, selecting these as my objects. I do want to pick the center point of right here and then preview this. This is going to make up the interior detail. That array pattern looks good. I'll right click to accept that. The next thing I need to do is put the center structure in here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle that is going to have a diameter of 50. And now I have these two offshoots that are going to go right outside of that. Now I'm going to save a little bit of time in doing this. I know that they're an R of 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over this center point and I'm just going to track out 40. Radius of 10. Come back in here, track out 40, radius of 10. I can now do lines from the quadrant straight into the circle. And trim out what I no longer need, and that's going to complete this particular exercise. You don't have to leave this line in here if you don't want to leave this line in here. It may be good to leave in just to make sure that you've got the correct dimensions and stuff. And as far as this interior section is concerned, if you're struggling with it, don't worry about it a whole lot because, like I said, I know the book leaves a little bit to be desired as far as dimensions are concerned for that particular piece.